So good afternoon, everybody. I'm Christine Sadovy from the BPU, and I am so excited to be moderating this Careers in Utilities Week panel. We have some wonderful speakers today, and we have a lot of questions already, and we'll continue to have more, I'm sure, as the speakers make their opening remarks. We'll leave plenty of time for question and answer from the audience, but I would just like to introduce all of our panelists today. Starting with our own President Joe Fiordaliso from the Board of Public Utilities. We also have Assistant Commissioner Hugh Bailey from the Department of Labor and Workforce Development. We have Cheryl Norton, President of New Jersey American Water, Christina Farrell, Government and Public Affairs Director at New Jersey Utilities Association, and Judy Savage, Executive Director of the New Jersey Council of County Vocational Technical Schools. We're really excited to have everyone here. Looks like we have about 65 people already signed in, and I'm sure that we will get some more trickling in as we continue. And I would just like to turn it over to President Fiordaliso to make some opening remarks.
Thank you, Christine, and welcome to everyone. And we appreciate you taking the time to be on this panel. And first, I'd like to thank each and every one of you. For those that don't know, the New Jersey Board of Public Utilities is the state regulatory agency that ensures safe, affordable, reliable utility service to the residents of the state of New Jersey. The NJBPU also administers New Jersey's clean energy program and is tasked with implementing Governor Murphy's vision for 100% clean energy by the year 2050. Earlier this year, we published our Energy Master Plan, a landmark document that provides a roadmap for how to achieve our mission to fight climate change and build a stronger, fairer, clean energy future for our state. I am pleased to convene this roundtable discussion on New Jersey's utility industry during Careers in Utilities Week, when we recognize the importance of our utility workforce and highlight growing opportunities in this industry, an industry that I encourage all young folks in particular to take a look at, a serious look. Throughout this year's devastating pandemic, we have been reminded of how critical our utility workforce is for maintaining our way of life here in the Garden State. More than 38,000 men and women are working around the clock to ensure we have the essential services of water, wastewater, electricity, natural gas, telecommunications, and cable television. These men and women maintain and operate tens of billions of dollars in critical utility infrastructure that supports the rhythms of our daily lives. Without them, frankly, we would be in the dark. The utility industry provides opportunities for individuals of diverse backgrounds, career stages, and levels of education to obtain meaningful employment. New Jersey's public utilities are actively recruiting and training the next generation of utility employees. And again, I encourage anyone interested to seek more information on these programs to reach out to the utilities and find out where you might be able to fit in this exciting industry. And it's becoming more exciting every single day because all of our utilities, whether we're talking about water, whether we're talking about gas, whether we're talking about electricity, telecommunications, are involved in some way in the clean energy revolution that is spreading throughout the Garden State. As we continue our economic recovery from COVID-19, Governor Murphy's vision for 100% clean energy by 2050 will add tens of thousands of good paying jobs, stable jobs to this industry, and support an equitable and I want to underline equitable, clean energy innovation economy for New Jersey. Solar installer is already the fastest growing job in New Jersey, with wind turbine technicians being the fastest growing job in the United States. These clean energy careers are helping to reduce emissions, improve our air quality, and build the clean energy future we need. Our panelists will discuss how the pandemic has impacted the utility industry, what opportunities exist for job seekers, and how the utility and clean energy sectors can support our economic recovery. Again, I'd like to thank all of our panelists for participating in this discussion, as well as our virtual guests for taking an interest in this vital industry. Just think about it for a moment. Without the utility industry, again, whether we're talking water, electric, gas, telecommunication, cable, what our life would be without them. Just think about that. Viewer questions can be submitted through Zoom and will be answered following an open discussion with our panelists. At this time, I will open it up for each of our panelists to make brief opening comments, beginning with Department of Labor Assistant Commissioner Hugh Bailey. Welcome, Commissioner.
Well, thank you very much, and good afternoon, everyone. Can everyone hear me okay?
Very well.
Wonderful. So I can't tell you how pleased I am to be here. Our Commissioner of the New Jersey Department of Labor, Robert Osaro Angelo, certainly sends his greetings. He wanted to join us today. I'll be brief, but I cannot help but underscore much of the comments that have already been stated. We see opportunities and careers in utilities, quite frankly, as a critical staple for how our state is able to move forward and critical opportunities for jobs throughout the state for New Jerseyans who are career seekers looking for meaningful employment. My role with the New Jersey Department of Labor, I serve, as stated before, as Assistant Commissioner, specifically for workforce development. And so we have had the incredible privilege to have already started work with so many energy providers, more appropriately, vendors and employers who have been actively involved by working in a lot of the areas mentioned, whether specifically in energy. And part of our job is to ensure that, for those new opportunities that are created, we work very closely with the employers to better understand what the skills and competencies are that they're going to need in their potential candidates for employment. And throughout the state of New Jersey, we have a network of one-stop career centers who are basically standing at the ready to engage with those employers, again, identify what the competencies and skills are going to be needed for those tens of thousands of jobs that have already been mentioned, and to help prepare career seekers for opportunities in those occupation areas. And so we help to establish, cultivate, and support those training opportunities. We work closely again with those employers so that we know exactly what is the demand that exists for the right skills and the right competency, so that we can help prepare career seekers so that they can sort of effectively execute those jobs. And then through our one-stop career centers and working with career seekers, we connect you with either the training provider. If individuals already have those skill set, then we're working directly with the employer, making those referrals. And right now we are working in the clean energy space, preparing individuals to have for opportunities in the energy space. New Jersey is one of the states where, just as an example, all across the country, you see them every day when we're driving. Electric vehicles are out there. New Jersey is one of the states that is building its network of electric vehicle recharging stations. And so that's one of the areas in which we're going to see a need for growth. We're going to see a need for training. And we are working closely with a number of vendors, or we will be working closely with vendors who will be making those opportunities available. So that's just one example of how in the energy sector, which is part of the utilities, how our workforce development system, our network of one-stop career centers, the training providers, established and approved training providers operating throughout the Garden State are available to help support individuals and career seekers who see this energy sector as a viable opportunity and look forward to careers there. So I am excited to be part of this panel. I guess my final point will be that to address how the COVID pandemic has impacted the work that we do. You may notice that part of the guidelines from the CDC is to encourage sort of social, physical distancing. I hate to think that we're socially distanced, so I prefer physical distancing. But that we're physically distancing from one another, wearing our appropriate protective equipment, our PPE. But even in that regard, our training providers have made adjustments so that where curriculum that is already existing can be adjusted to a virtual environment, we're doing so. But as we all know, there's some types of training that you just can't do without being involved in a face-to-face environment. And so when that is the case, we are reducing the volume in a lot of the training classes, so to ensure that people are still being safe. And so I believe that while it has had an impact, not one so where our training infrastructure is debilitated or unable to function. And so we are eager to continue to support the utilities opportunities, specifically in energy, and look forward to continuing participation in this panel and responding to any questions or comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. And I'm going to pass it back to Christine to introduce our other panelists for opening statements.
Thank you so much, President, and thank you, Commissioner. Let's go to Cheryl Norton, President at New Jersey American Water.
Thank you, Christine. I'm very happy to be here today. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to people about jobs and utilities. I've entered into the business a little different than a lot of people in the water industry. I started doing microbiology research with American Water back in the 1980s. That dates me a little bit. I'm feeling like I'm getting close to being aged a little bit. But anyway, I started doing microbiology research and then oversaw the testing for chemical compliance. So came up through the water quality side of the business. Then I had an opportunity to move into operations. And that's been so fun for me because it's given me a firsthand opportunity to really see the passion that the employees from the utility side of the business have for serving customers. You see it whether it's in the water utility business, you see it in the electric. If there's a storm that comes through and the power goes out, people just swarm there to help in any way that they can. And I see that from our employees all the time. And I'm just really excited to be part of that industry and that group. Another exciting piece of that is the change that I've seen over the years. Like I said, I've been here a long time, over 30 years, but I've seen a real change in the business. I've seen the business move to be more inclusive, and that's very exciting for me. The fact that we have so many women panelists today talking about utilities is just incredible. And 20 years ago, that wouldn't have been the case. So happy to be here, and I'm seeing American Water move in that more inclusive kind of path, looking for a more diverse workforce, looking for people with all kinds of different skill sets. And so it's really great that we're here to talk about that today. New Jersey American has about 800 highly skilled employees across the state of New Jersey. We serve 192 communities, and we serve about one out of 3 people in the state. So about a third of the state, which is not a small piece. So, we're the largest water and wastewater services provider in the state. And again, my team works really hard to provide the best customer experiences that they possibly can. And I'm really proud to be associated with them and would love to encourage people to ask questions about what is it like to work for a utility? What are the opportunities there? I'm happy to talk about that as we go through the process today. One of the real important things that we do are make investments in the communities that we serve. And we spent about $375 million in infrastructure investments in 2019. And we're planning to spend about $1.7 billion over the next 5 years. And that's really important to providing safe and reliable services that's sustainable for our customers for the long haul, and to make sure that we're staying ahead of the infrastructure needs throughout the business as much as we possibly can. But in addition to that, that amount of money brings a lot of jobs to the business. In 2019, we estimate that we brought about 6,000 jobs by making those investments throughout the state. So that's a big impact to the economy, and that's a really important thing that we do. We really want to make sure that that we're making the right investments and balancing the affordability to our customers. So there are a lot of conversations all the time about how can we make the investments that are needed and still keep it affordable for our customers. It brings all different kinds of expertise to the business. Again, lots of job opportunities from different aspects of the world, basically. So what we want to do, what our real mission is to provide safe and reliable water and wastewater services to the communities that we serve. But most importantly, we want those communities to be better because we're there. And so we want to bring good jobs to the table and have the passionate people that we have. We want to grow those people and give them future opportunities. So really looking forward to the conversation today and appreciate the opportunity.
Christine, if I may just interject something here, please.
Of course.
Cheryl, I'm so happy you brought up the fact that there are more and more women getting involved in the utility industry. The utility industry is not gender specific, and it shouldn't be. There are wide opportunities for both men and women, and there are no jobs that are specifically for men or specifically for women. And I think that's so important because, again, historically, when we think about utilities, we think it's a male-oriented industry. And we have to get away from that thinking. It's not. It's a people industry. And that includes all people. So thank you for bringing that out. I'm sorry, Christine.
No, please. I think that's a great point. And so turning it over to Christina Farrell from the New Jersey Utilities Association, another one of our wonderful female panelists.
Thanks so much, Christine. I really appreciate the introduction. As you mentioned, my name is Christina Farrell. I'm the Director of Government and Public Affairs for the New Jersey Utilities Association. I've been with NJUA for 8 months now. I actually started working with the association 6 weeks before the pandemic started. So it's been an interesting time. It's given me a great opportunity to be able to work with all of our member companies and learn a little bit more about the industry. Now I have the great pleasure of working with NJUA, which is the statewide trade association for investor-owned utilities that provide essential water, wastewater, electric, natural gas, and telecommunication services to our New Jersey residents and wonderful businesses here in our state. We have 13 member companies, and they're dedicated to the delivery of essential services to nearly 7 million residential customers and 1 million non-residential customers across the state. Our member companies touch the lives of every person who lives or works in New Jersey. And because of the services provided by our utility members, people can read when it's dark, heat and cool their homes, schools, businesses. They can enjoy clean water, preserve and prepare their food, and communicate with their loved ones and colleagues, which is especially critical during this time. This very video communication that we're all using to participate on this panel today would not be possible without the essential services provided by the utility sector. So just excited to be a part of this panel and talk about careers in utilities. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think no better way to round it out is to hear from Judy Savage from the New Jersey Council of County Vocational and Technical Schools.
Super. Thank you so much, Christine, and members of the audience. Thanks for having me here today. So as Executive Director of the New Jersey Council of County Vocational Technical Schools, I represent the 21 county-based vocational technical schools in New Jersey, school districts, one in each county, and their mission is to provide career-focused educational opportunities, both to secondary students. We have about 35,000 secondary students who enroll in those schools, and also to adults who are seeking training, retraining, apprenticeship training, and so forth. Our schools offer a very, very broad range of career programs. A lot of people think of vocational schools as limited sometimes to trade and technical programs. And of course, our schools train electricians and plumbers and HVAC technicians and welders, but they also train engineers, and they train environmental scientists and lots of other areas that support the utility workforce and other areas. I think a real shift that has happened in career and technical education over the past 10 to 15 years is to recognize, particularly at the secondary level, when a student goes to a vocational school, the expectation is to begin preparing them for a career pathway that'll open up a range of opportunities to them through the course of their career. We're not training high school students just to do one job for the rest of their lives. You know, in today's economy, being successful in the workplace really requires a lifetime of skill building and lifelong learning. And so we seek to prepare students for a range of career opportunities, whether they're in construction and they need to learn about residential construction and commercial construction and careers in utilities, or whether it's in engineering and they need to understand all those possibilities. So we're really excited about the opportunity to partner with the utility industry to help get the word out to students about the broad range of careers. And we can talk more about how to do that.
Great. Thank you, everyone, for those wonderful opening remarks. We have a lot of prepared questions, but we also have over 80 attendees right now. So we have some questions coming in already. So I would encourage folks to submit their questions online as we start with our prepared questions. So I'm going to start with President Fiordaliso. President, how is the utility landscape evolving to address the impacts of climate change? And how is Governor Murphy's vision for 100% clean energy by 2050 guiding these changes?
Excuse me. We're on an exciting path here. And it's an honor for me to be the president of the board at this time. Not only to work with the various utilities that we regulate, but also to advance the clean energy agenda proposed by Governor Murphy. And it really is a green energy revolution that we're experiencing here in the state of New Jersey. And our utilities are coming to the plate. They are really coming to the plate insofar as contributing toward achieving our goal of 100% clean energy by 2050. Many of our water companies are coming up to the plate. Our electric companies, our gas companies, so on, are all coming up and wanting to participate in this green revolution. And the filings we get from a number of our utilities to be a part of this is really enlightening. We have to understand, I believe, that climate change is real. There's no getting around it. Something is happening to our climate. And I also believe that we have an obligation, and I would submit a moral obligation, to mitigate the effects of climate change. I'm not going to be around probably to see the terrible, terrible effects of climate change. But certainly my grandchildren and their children and their children will be. And that's where our moral obligation comes into play. So I think our utilities are gearing up. I think our utilities know what the future holds insofar as this green revolution is concerned. And as good business people, they are certainly preparing their individual businesses to accommodate this green revolution. So it's very, very exciting and something that, again, I want to encourage young folks to get involved in. Not only the green revolution, but all aspects of the utility industry. You know, you hear that and an awful lot of people say, well, that's not a sexy industry. Well, I beg to differ. What's going on today is so exciting and so stimulating. We are changing the world. We really are. And that may sound, you know, like I'm in fantasy land somewhere, but it's true. We're changing the world in so many ways. And the states here in the United States are the ones who are creating this revolution. Just imagine if we had the federal government helping us, what it would be. But here in New Jersey, we're going to stay the course. And I appreciate the contributions of each and every one of our utilities.
Thank you, President. We have a few more prepared questions before we go to the audience. The next one I think could go really to any number of our panelists, but let's start with Assistant Commissioner. What challenges would you say employers face in finding the right candidates, Assistant Commissioner Bailey?
So, you know, that's a good question and certainly an interesting one. You know, at the New Jersey Department of Labor, we deal with all kinds of things as it relates to workforce. As it relates to sort of issues, you know, in the larger labor arena. So, for example, sometimes we are called upon to address issues of whether or not someone is appropriately classified as an employee. Someone may not have, you know, not be paying or not understand how to contribute to certain kinds of taxes or UI initiatives. And so there's an opportunity for employers to come to us for all kinds of reasons and issues. But by far, the number one issue that comes to us over and over again from the employer community is, where can I find good workers? And so I think that in and of itself is an interesting testament. And so part of the answer is that we have to look in the right places. I'm so glad to have a colleague like Judy Savage on this panel, but more importantly, in the broader space in which we work. And so let me sort of talk to that to a degree and then offer or encourage rather others to chime in. I think that, as I mentioned before, we have the ability to provide all kinds of appropriate training to career seekers to really meet the skill and competency needs that employers and the utilities have in order to sort of hire successful and long-term people to go into the utilities industry. I think the largest barrier, quite frankly, is a simple one: a lack of communication with those that are preparing career seekers with the employers in the varying occupation areas that make up sort of the utilities body of work. From my perspective, from my experience, one of the most important, maybe more critical barriers we have is not understanding what employers need in order to appropriately prepare individuals for success in the career and to market their abilities and competencies to those employers in need. And so one of the things that we've done at the New Jersey Department of Labor is to create what we're calling industry partnerships to continually engage employers at almost an intimate level to better understand sort of what their needs and demands are over time, sort of the demand in number of employees that they're going to need. And then what are the skill sets that are going to be required, or what are the credentials that they're going to require those individuals to have so that we can start building the runway in partnership with private career schools, training providers, career and technical education programs. I'm so glad that that's been mentioned. That is one of my personal favorite sort of pathways, if you will, to employment, to skill development. And so, you know, I think that those relationships, that ability to engage and communicate with employers is so important to help understand what the needs are and then prepare career seekers to be ready to assume those jobs going into employment with the right skill set.
Thank you. I was going to actually segue to you, Judy, for a follow-up question, but if you want to add on to that, please go ahead.
Yeah, I just to build on what Hugh said, I think your point that employers need to be engaged with schools and providers in really making it clear what the specific needs are is just critically important. And really, we need to think about it on several levels. I mean, certainly there are immediate just-in-time needs that employers can try to fill from adults who are out there looking for work, and they will need some training to be prepared to come in at the entry level. But the other piece of it that's equally important is building a much longer-term pipeline and really thinking about students who are coming into high school as that future workforce. And from the county vocational school perspective, we would really welcome the opportunity to work more closely with various employers in the utility industry to help students begin to understand that broad range of careers. And, you know, yes, there are technical skilled trade jobs in the utility industry, but I was so fascinated when Cheryl talked about her career pathway. There are also jobs for environmental scientists and biologists and engineers. There's going to need to be some critical infrastructure investment in water systems and in, you know, energy systems, clean energy. And that's not going to be just one type of job. There are many, many different types of jobs. So, you know, part of our role is beginning to prepare students at the high school level to be educated about the needs and to have those foundational career pathway skills. While we're talking about employers being engaged, I want to acknowledge what the Department of Labor is doing, but also just note briefly that the Council of County Vocational Schools and the State Council of County Colleges are working together to build some specific career pathways and launching an effort this month in four key areas. One of them is energy. So, you know, utility employers will be a critical part of that conversation about what are the skills, what are the credentials, what are the things that you need a range of people to be prepared for.
Sorry, unmute there. Thank you so much. This is a question that has actually come in through the Q&A as well. So maybe we can stay on this topic and hear from Cheryl and or Christina about the skills that utility employers are looking for, you know, and what can someone really gain from working in the industry? So it's a two-part question there.
Yeah, Christine, I'll take a first stab at it, and then Christina
Sure.
can chime in. You know, as Judy was talking about, the skill sets are very different depending on kind of which pathway they want to take. And I think that the technical skills are really, really important, but not as important as the leadership skills and the soft skills and the ability to communicate and work with people and the ability to lead. That's so important because you can teach people technical things, but it's a lot harder to teach people that leadership kind of style and skill set unless you start really early with that. So I think getting those younger people as they're coming into high school and starting with that kind of a skill set. With all the social media these days, we've lost a lot of that kind of face-to-face interpersonal skills and soft skills. But you know, we have everything from our frontline workers, our union workers, utility mechanic people who need problem-solving skills, and they need some mechanical aptitude. And they need to be willing to work more than 40 hours a week and like to work outside in different conditions and things like that, all the way to attorneys and regulatory people. That's one of the hardest positions for us to find somebody with experience is to have the regulatory experience and be able to go to the BPU and have those conversations and understand the rate making process. So, you know, you've got accountants, you've got engineers, you've got scientists, you've got all different types of business positions across the business that make up a utility. In order for us to be successful, we need some of the better candidates there. One of the big challenges for us is competition, because we have what we call a silver tsunami coming. We have between 30 and 50% of our workforce that's going to be able to retire in the next 5 to 7 years. And so do all the other utilities. So everybody's kind of competing for that same level of workforce, and we're all looking for some similar skill sets. And so that competition is getting bigger and bigger all the time.
Thanks. And just to add to what Cheryl had just mentioned, there's so much opportunity on the horizon for those that are looking to work in the utility industry. The great thing about the industry is that you can be someone that's fresh out of high school, trade school, college, or even coming off of another career path, and there's likely going to be an opportunity for you in the utility sector. I'm someone with a background in environmental policy, and I'm working in utilities. So you can literally be coming from all walks of life, and there's most likely going to be an opportunity for you in this industry. The industry gives those that are looking to work hard and have a rewarding career the ability to have a highly technical career without necessarily needing a college degree. And that's something exciting to think about. If you're someone who's intellectually curious, there's so much depth to what we do in all sectors. New Jersey's residents and businesses depend on the utilities to provide services to natural gas, electric, water, wastewater, telecommunications around the clock. So it is crucial that we have a skilled workforce in place today and as we look towards the future. And to Cheryl's point, the Center for Energy Workforce Development conducted a study several years ago and found that we anticipate a really large retirement bubble, somewhere between 30 to 50%. And we're seeing similar trends in all of our sectors. And that's why we helped put this Careers in Utilities Week initiative forward several years ago, and why it's so important to understand that there is a multitude of opportunities with or without college degrees. So just a little plug here, if you're someone who is interested in a career in the utility industry, a good place to start would be by visiting njua.com. And under the About NJUA tab, you'll be able to find all of our 13 utility member company websites. And from there, you can search for job openings at the respective utility companies.
Thank you, Christina. It looks like we've started to answer some of the questions coming in, but let's go back, because as we know, we are in the middle of a pandemic, which has had an impact on all sectors throughout New Jersey and the country. So back to President Fiordaliso, in what ways has the utility industry been impacted by the pandemic, and which of these effects are lasting and which do you feel are or may be temporary?
Well, from the information I get, thank you, Christine. From the information I get, most of the utilities are still, their workforce are still working remotely. And for a time there, particularly at the height of the pandemic, and I think we're seeing a second or third wave now, unfortunately, there were restrictions on folks going into homes from the utilities, unless it was an absolute emergency. And that has obviously been relaxed to some extent, excuse me. And the whole business model in many cases has changed because of the remote working conditions, because of what they can do as far as each individual customer is concerned, going into the home, not going into the home, and so on. So I think the utilities had to rethink an awful lot of their procedures and how they can not only protect their employees, but protect their customers as well in what they do, and which is no small task. I know here at the BPU, we have started with our senior staff and our division directors coming into the office on a number of days during the week but our general staff is still not back, still working remotely. And from what I hear from the individual utilities is that business continues, and business continues on track. And I have to admit that I was surprised how efficient the Board of Public Utilities continues to run, even though the majority of our employees are working remotely. And it just shows that most of us, when we have a responsibility, it doesn't matter where we're working from, we still try to complete the task and do the job. And I always say that I have the best staff in state government, and I do, and they perform. And I hope Cheryl, who company deals with us probably almost on a daily basis, would concur. But it really is. Conditions have changed. Hopefully, there's going to be a point where this pandemic is over, and we can get back to, I hate to use the word normal because I don't know what that is anymore, but some degree of normality, and continue to work on. But our utilities haven't skipped a beat from what I can see here. And that's certainly the leadership deserves credit. The line workers deserve credit, and so on. And I'm amazed at these utility workers who, in all kinds of weather, are out there trying to keep our water flowing and trying to keep our lights on and trying to keep our heat on and everything else. So it's a great business to get involved in, and add to that the clean energy aspect, and you have a very exciting industry to deal with.
Thank you, President. We're going to go to additional questions from the audience. So I'm going to start with the most recent one, since I know we've covered some of the other ones. Have the utilities established any partnerships with accelerators to expedite the pipeline of technology adoption? Are there opportunities to develop this space? I'm not sure who wants to start or respond to that first, so I will leave it open.
I can start.
Great.
We're always looking at different pieces of technology, new technology that's coming out to see if there's a more efficient way of doing business. Is there a way that we can better serve our customers? And so, our employees engage in that at different levels. We've got some employees who are very excited about technology and others that are maybe a little less excited about technology. And so, getting our employees to utilize the technology at hand is something that I have found pretty exciting. We actually had, through the pandemic, as we talked about that a little earlier, because we aren't going into customers' homes, and we still are not from our perspective at American Water, but our employees have been very creative, and they've figured out that using FaceTime with a customer can actually take their phone and show them what's going on, and our employees from the outside can help them through their problem. And so that's just using a regular piece of technology. But as far as new pieces of technology where we might be able to put a water drop on a small chip and be able to get an analysis of all the things that are in that water, new ways of treating for different types of contaminant. We've got a lot of contaminants that aren't even regulated yet that are coming about to be regulated. And so we're always looking for new treatment technologies and things like that. And there's definitely opportunities to get new technology across the utility business. And it's what's going to help take us to that next level and help us with the smart energy and everything else that goes along with that to reduce our carbon footprint, which is also another piece of technology that we're always looking for.
And Cheryl, if I could just ask you a question.
Sure.
What industry uses the most electricity and energy?
The water industry and the wastewater industry absolutely uses the most energy and electricity. So we're putting solar panels on a reservoir. We're working through the process, the regulatory process right now with that to make that happen. Working on a pilot program with Atlantic City Electric to try to get approval for that for electric fleet. and just trying to figure out all the ways that we can move away from the traditional energy use and reduce that as much as possible, or use clean energy in place of it. So lots of projects out there, but still a lot more that could be done, we know.
Yep, and all industries, all utilities are involved in the green energy fight here.
Absolutely.
And water in particular
Yes,
is the only utility we can't live without.
that's correct.
I can go without heat or lights, but I can't go without water.
That's right. And we're the only utility that you ingest. So we take that safety concept very seriously.
Yep, and you do it well.
Thank you.
Thank you. So there's a question that came up, and I think probably Judy or Cheryl or Christina can answer. Do the utilities have testing as part of the application interview process? Are there third-party tests or custom tests?
I can answer that one. At least from our perspective, there are certain positions that have tests that are involved, and it could be a third-party test or it could be a customized test depending on that specific position. One of the positions that we're most challenged to fill are our operator positions. And to get the highest level of operator license in the state of New Jersey, it takes 10 years of experience, which is a long time for someone to work to get that license. And so those are third-party tests that they have to take through DEP to be qualified through DEP to be a treatment plant operator. But we also have some other tests for specific positions in the organization that people would have to take that maybe we've created and gotten validated to make sure that they have the right kind of skill sets. If we're hiring somebody who needs electrical skill sets, we want to make sure that they actually have those skill sets and that we don't have any safety risks or anything like that. So it would be those types of tests that they would take.
Great. So we have some more questions coming in for our last 10 minutes. Here's one, maybe Judy can answer. Earlier, Cheryl mentioned that it's more important that high school students develop leadership skills and training than it is to have technical background experience. What can be done to get this leadership training into the hands of the students?
So I would say certainly from the perspective of our county vocational technical schools, whether leadership, soft skills, problem solving, all of those skills that are the foundational building blocks for successful employees are baked into career programs alongside the technical skills and the academic knowledge that students will need. But not every student gets to go to a county vocational school. So certainly there is a need to engage all schools, both the middle school and the high school level, to begin building and enhancing career readiness of all students as part of high school. I think for a long time, our state had been shifting toward a college for all mentality, in which the view was that the role of K-12 is to prepare students for college, and then the role of college is to prepare students for careers. And the reality is we've seen it. College is a really expensive career exploration program. I know, I have one who went through that long career exploration program at an expensive university. So it's really critical for all schools to begin, even if they're not in the business of having technical skilled programs or approved career and technical education programs, all schools have a role to play in starting to build career readiness at the middle and high school level and helping to educate students about all kinds of careers and all kinds of career pathways. There's tremendous success to be had and honor and fulfillment to be found in a technical career that does not necessarily require a 4-year degree. And students and parents need to learn more about that.
And Christine, if I may just add to that, from an industry perspective, there are challenges with reaching high school students like Judy had just mentioned, as well as middle schoolers and counselors, and getting them engaged and thinking about a career in the trades. because there are a multitude of career opportunities without a college degree within each of these utility companies. These are respectable trades and they're paying good living wages. And our industry is working to and committed to working with our county vocational schools, county colleges, four-year institutions, as well as high schools. And I can't say this enough, it's crucial that we have a skilled workforce in place today. And as we look towards the future, NJUA has actually, we recognize this and we've created an annual scholarship program, and we would love to continue to grow our pool of applicants for those scholarships. We provide annual scholarships to those looking to pursue a career in the utilities, and they can find that on our website.
And Christine, if I can also just add one quick thing, and that is, in addition to all the great comments that have been said, one of the things that we've been working on as we talk with employers and utilities and quite frankly, across all sectors, is having a real good understanding of what credentials, academic or technical or otherwise, are really necessary for a given job. And so, for example, oftentimes if the job is a receptionist, you may or may not need to require a bachelor's degree in order for someone to be successful in that job, depending on what the very nature is of that work. And so sometimes employers use some of those types of requirements as a proxy for some other skill set or competency that they think automatically comes with a certain credential or a certain degree. And so we've been working with employers to try to hone in on what is it you're really trying to glean from someone having a particular academic credential that may or may not be relevant. Now, you can't avoid the fact that, for certain jobs, you need to have a certain degree, you must have certain skill sets or competencies, et cetera. But where it's not necessary, let's figure out how can we clearly define what the skills and competencies are that the individual needs so that we can train to that or make sure that we are making our job descriptions and our announcements as transparent as possible so that they can attract the largest number of capable and competent candidates. And so that's another way in which I believe that really helps to broaden your candidate pool or your applicant pool and engage a broader set of individuals that could be incredible employees for the employers in this sector.
Yeah, Christine, can I just add a quick point to that? Hugh, I think you make an excellent point there. And I just want to add that the utilities have also great benefits that come along with these jobs. And so someone can come in at that kind of entry-level position and maybe they want to get a college degree, but we're a great way to do that because we have benefits that include paying for their tuition if they want to go to college. So they can come in and work at that entry-level job and go to college while they're working, and we actually pay for that. And so it gives them a chance to take a look at what's out there and figure out maybe while they're working what that career path is, and then go to school and get the degree that will help support them to move up through the organization. And I'm a great example of that. I mean, I started before I got out of college and then was able to kind of choose my career path based on the experience that I gained with the business. So I think that's a key point as well.
That, Christine, if I may, that is an excellent point. And was mentioned before, I think by Judy, years ago, it was either you go to college or what? But we're seeing that the technical skills are so important, not only in the utility industry, but throughout the industries that we have in the United States. So it's vitally important. And I am going to just put a quick plug in for, and I don't want to compete with utilities, don't misunderstand me, but I think you might join me in this. State government is a wonderful venue to work in, particularly here at the BPU. If you want to get involved in the green energy revolution, come on over. And we also have administrative positions available. We also have technical skills available, or technical jobs available. We also have legal jobs available. We have attorneys here. We have engineers here at the BPU. And so, I mean, there are a whole wide of variety of occupations that are available. But the benefits too are wonderful and so on. So there's a wide variety of options out there, I guess is what I'm trying to say, for young folks who are kind of scratching their heads and saying, what do I want to do? What do I want to do? Where do I want to go? And utilities, government are all great options to take a look at. And you choose what is in your best interest or what you think is. And keep in mind, you don't necessarily have the job for the next 40 or 50 years. That's also gone by the wayside. So I remember my dad worked in a factory for 45 years. That's the only job he ever had. But back then, that's what they did. But it's a whole new world today. So check out all your options.
I think that's a great point to end on because we are just up on the hour. So I just want to thank all of the panelists for joining us and all of the attendees. It's been a really great panel. I think we answered almost everyone's questions. If you have additional ones, please do feel free to email us, respond to your Zoom invitation, and we will try to get those answered for you. But thank you, President Fiordaliso. Thank you to all of our panelists, and have a great day.
Thank you all.
Thank you.